Chet, how long you been a filmmaker? I looked and it said you started 2018, your company?
Yes, that's correct. We started with a short film, and I don't know if you know Dave Parker. He does horror review on
No.
uh, on YouTube. He's got a YouTube horror review. Now it's more general films, but at the time he was
Okay.
focused on indie horror films, and he also was acting back then. And he has appeared in like 36 films,
Wow.
independent films. Yeah. So I showed him a uh, a script I'd written, a story, and he said, "Perfect." And he knew a filmmaker, Dustin Mills, and that was the beginning. And fortunately for me, I bumped into very talented and, I have to admit, completely honest people who came up with a very, very good product. So I sort of stumbled into this. It was I uh, normally am an academic, and I was planning on retiring then, which actually didn't happen. So this was going to be a retirement project. Uh, but
Like one film just for fun? Or?
well, I was going to. I thought the one film, and then once I got into it, these things are addictive. So and then we did another and another, and the horror film is now three horror films are now part of an anthology called Slice, and that has a bridge story that unites the three horror shorts that were filmed independently.
Nice.
And but then we decided to flee upmarket and did a modernist version of Oscar Wilde's play Salome, and
Huh.
that was artistically uh, way beyond what we started with. In fact, it was premiered at Yale University with
Wow.
critics from the School of Drama there who loved it. So,
Oh.
you know, yeah, we sort of went in the other direction. Take a guess which is making more money.
Uh, the other horror films,
Yes, the over the top, deliberately in bad
right.
taste horror film is making a multiple of
Okay.
the money of the good taste. So there's a lesson there.
Right. That's really nice, man. I respect that. That's great to hear. And how did you get to Yale? How did somebody send your stuff in, or how does that
I'm already
happen?
there. I'm on the faculty there.
Oh, okay. Oh, you weren't
Not in
joking. You really are an academic.
Yes, but I'm on the
Nice.
medical campus. I have nothing to do with the drama school, but I happen to know
That's
people over there,
wild.
so that's how that happened. We also did a version of the Aeschylus play Agamemnon, using the translation by Ted Hughes, who was the British poet laureate. And
Huh.
that was excuse me. There we go. See if I can yeah. Um, that was somewhat problematic, but we got it done, and, we had to get approval from the estate of Ted Hughes, the poet laureate of Great Britain, at one point, and they approved it, so, we got that out too. So those are our
Wait,
3.
what? I was gonna ask, did you approach them first before you started it, or did
Oh,
you
yeah.
midway through it? Oh,
Oh, no,
okay.
no, no. No, no, you have to boy, they I don't I'd get the bejesus suit out of me if I hadn't. You have
Right.
to get a license to do it, and they,
Right.
um the problem was it has to adhere completely. You cannot leave out a comma from the his translation of the Greek, and they have to approve the final film. And suddenly I realized, oh my God, I'll have spent all this money and they might say no, but they didn't. So, you
Yeah.
know, I really am indebted to the cast and crew of that film. They had a COVID outbreak on the set.
Oh, wow.
They had an actress who walked off the set in, and a whole, like 2 days had to be refilmed and so forth and so
Damn.
on. So, it got done. But at any rate, so what is your interest in film?
I love
If I
film. Well, it's funny. Over the past like couple years, and with social media, you'll have there's this British guy, and I forgot his name, but he does these shorts and he reviews. This is the most disgusting film I've ever seen. Oh my god! And so I get intrigued. Most of the time, like I've learned about a lot of movies, especially the stuff from this late '60s. But I grew up watching horror movies. I like spy movies, thrillers, romance, but I started researching for some stories I've been working on. I like watching and looking at everything. I started to develop an interest in kind of watching things differently. And I just think it's one of the best work environments. I wish I had approached film and comedy when I was younger. I did a video shoot. I was an extra in a rock video in the 90s, and I'll never forget that experience because it felt perfect. I was content standing on a scaffolding for 12 hours, talking to people. And it just, the whole environment I thought was great. You got fed, I got paid. I was like, man, I could
Yeah,
have pursued music, but film, I think film would be so fun. If I didn't live in Juneau, I lived like in Seattle somewhere, I would probably pursue background work and just be an extra on a film or
yeah.
just for fun,
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because my first film experience was in an um as an extra in a film with John Philip Law called The Sergeant. That was filmed. I was a student in Paris at the time, and I did it just they were paying good money for English speaking extras, and so I signed up, and it stayed with me. It was a also a very cool experience, and being in France, the crew meal, the buffet was spectacular.
Wow,
This was a major production, so there was no,
ridiculous. They
yeah,
had a
the
chef, I assume.
so the food was good. I tried for a couple of other things, but didn't get it. But I always and in fact, that really was my real interest in movies. I had only seen, Hollywood type productions. And then I saw Roman Polanski's Repulsion with Catherine Deneuve in France. And it's like, wow, this is a whole different type of film. And it sort of stayed with me. I mean, I had several other careers. And finally, as I approached retirement, I thought, maybe I could dabble in this a little bit. And it's actually been very rewarding. We're on Amazon Prime, and
I saw that.
yeah, we're on 5 other streaming services currently with our 3
Did you,
film.
when you were able to do that, did you feel pride in that? That's where you put everything out now, is on a streaming service. Did you feel proud, like, wow, I really did this? We
Yeah.
made it.
Well, I don't know about, and one of our films would probably be about 3 minutes of a major Hollywood production, as far as costs are concerned. But, yeah, I was absolutely stunned that, they took it. And, we have a film on Tubi, Salome's on Tubi, and, Fossum, all sorts of, Roku. So,
Wow.
yeah. it's surprisingly, it's worked out, yeah, but,
You approached them and submitted your film and they
no,
looked at it
you
and
go
said,
no, actually, there are 2 there's several ways of doing this. Um, you go through a, sort of aggregator. One is called Film Hub, and the other is Indie Rights, and they're the ones because the, platforms will not deal with you directly, and
right,
the reason is, for example, I've been very lucky in that I've worked with people out in Ohio and, uh, Asheville, North Carolina, and Kentucky, but, uh, the filmmakers I've worked with are professional filmmakers who, for the most part, have incredibly good equipment, and some of them are film school graduates, but they're doing local TV commercials and local roofing commercials and are eager to do narrative film. So I've been able to benefit from having, 60 and $70,000 cameras for my productions. Like, I don't know if you know the Red system, but the films we did with the Shaw Brothers were done on a Red camera, which is, very professional. Uh, the Red Dragon is, tens of thousands of dollars, and, I can use that, but, usually they're filming commercials, local, ads for the local car dealer and local roofing and, fencing companies, whatever. So, that has been the reason my films have been able to make the quality control for acceptance onto the streaming services,
that's exciting. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was trying to break into make some kind of film, whatever, and I never did it. But I was scoping out people, and I used to live in Chicago, so we went back with my wife and I and my son, and I went to Columbia, which is a city school, a liberal arts school, and they have a film program, and I basically just went there and was, is it possible to, is there a way I can hit up a film crew here, students, to make a film? Or they were, I don't really know, but that's the way I've heard you do it. If you want to find people, find students, or people have it and they're excited just to do it. That's
and
great.
well, I think too the horror films, the anthology, was over the top and, outrageous. So people were sort of eager to do stuff like that. The name of the film is Slice, incidentally, SLICE, in case your audience is
No,
wondering.
I saw, I'm going to check it out. I saw that. I'm going
Okay.
to check it out. Sounds
And,
familiar though, too. So
and,
I'm going to check it
and,
out.
and then the other film, Salome, people I worked with the Shell brothers who contributed to Slice, and they were interested in doing an upscale film, doing something that had, you know, redeeming artistic value. And they did
I,
a wonderful job. They reset the whole story in a modern setting without changing Oscar Wilde's language. So I
oh,
hope you
really?
yeah, I hope you get a chance to see it. Yeah.
Horror is a really, there's various genres. Horror, I notice in the past several years, it's kind of expanded into different genres. Horror is like comedy, love, sci-fi. You can incorporate. There's so many different types of horror movies now, and what's great is unlike comedy and romance, action, sci-fi, comic book, whatever. Horror is kind of just, it's a different genre in the sense that it's pretty punk rock where it's totally, it could be a low budget. Like the guy who the Terrifier franchise, um it just blew up, and it was a low budget film, and they didn't use any special effects. It was all, or they used general, just
Practical
rigid
effects,
practical effects.
but, as opposed to, CGI.
CGI, and I'm not, I'm not anti CGI because like some stuff you have to use it to accomplish that effect. But I think the opposite is happening where it's going back to the basics and just the original art of filmmaking, where you get all these, you get the fake blood and limbs and all that, and it's great. But there's a lot of opportunity, and I know there's more freedom.
One thing I believe in is as an independent filmmaker, you have to show people things they haven't seen before. You can't have the same a serial killer, the remote cabin, all these overused horror tropes. And in our films, we don't have any supernatural creatures, no vampires, no zombies. And what I have found is poor decision making is a wonderful source of horror, and it's something people can relate to, and that is the basis of our horror anthology is a group of guys making what seemed like, an expedient, and of course the audience realizes what a terrible idea, you know, but and we've done very well with that. I have to say, at one film festival in Germany, um, where we had submitted, I got a report back that a fourth of the audience had walked out in horror and disgust.
Oh,
Uh, and I felt so proud,
yeah.
that
I mean, come on.
that we had actually reached people.
Wow, I would feel honored that you're disgusted and I brought that out of you, that emotion. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, we're currently working on with the Shell brothers of uh, Austin and Dylan Shell. We're working on a new horror anthology, very loosely based on some Edgar Allan Poe stories, and that's in production currently. Um, and we're also looking at some other classic plays that we're considering. So that is kind of where our films are right now.
Where are you based out of? Like, where's your company based out of?
I'm based in Connecticut,
Okay.
but I've never produced a film here. I always work mostly in Ohio. We've done two film a part of the anthology and another short film in Asheville, North Carolina. And then Salome was done by the Shell brothers, and the studio they used was actually over about an hour from 2 hours from their home
Nice.
in Louisville, Kentucky. It
Oh,
was
wow.
filmed in Kentucky. Um, so the problem with this area is we're within the sort of uh, grasp of the evil empire known as New York City, and where production costs are absolutely through the roof.
Yeah.
And I could never afford to produce a film in New York City. The everybody expects, I mean, they do great work there, but that's for the big time. It's just not feasible for me.
Right. It's like one day we'll do some in New York, but when we have the budget, but
Well, at this point, I don't know whether I would or not, because I think staying in the heartland, um, and using actors from Middle America has given our films, I think, an authenticity. And unlike, I guess, the other extreme is Southern California, where all the street scenes look alike. The weather's perfect all the time,
right.
which I must say at times I wish had happened. We've had, weather, problems and reshoots. and I see why the people are out there. But, that's sunny and, everyone looks a little too made up and
Right,
plasticky. And I think that's one of the things that has helped the marketability of my films is that, these are people the actors and are from the Midwest and they look it, and
right. I'm
you
pro
know, the
Midwest, so I support that, you know.
the women are not rail thin, they've got some, they
Right.
look like normal people.
Yeah, I grew up in California as a kid. It is literally I prefer a realistic movie, and it's just sometimes the cast, it's too obvious. Come on. Nobody here looks like you. Maybe one person, or they're really young, you know. But yeah, I would say work it, man, and just continue. Not, you know, but I think that's great. Because there's other aspects. It's like there's more than just New York and LA. There's
Yeah,
more than and I mean this like Stephen King his thing is Maine. It's Maine,
yeah,
right? Is that
that's right.
I think he films a lot there when he does a movie. Or you have John Cusack, so everything is Chicago. And when I lived there, I got to see some stuff filmed there, and I love the Midwest, and so even and the South too. Was it so Rob Zombie? I think is a Texas guy. A lot of these guys they use Texas, and I think it's because of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But it's got that whole aesthetic of horror. It's a dream place for the apocalypse or a horror movie.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you for taking your time to get to know something about our company,
Yeah.
and I hope your viewers will tune in to see either Oscar Wilde's Salome or Slice.
Okay.
And if they have the time, Agamemnon, which is over
All
2
right.
hours,
Yeah.
and it's
Well, you know.
and well, the thing is it's a play that was written 2,400 years ago,
Right.
and it's still in production,
Right.
It's been in continuous production since then, but for modern viewers, it might be a bit of a stretch, unless you're really into Greek classics. So I wanna thank you, okay?
Well, thank you.
Do you have any other questions before I leave?
No, I'd like to bring you on. I enjoy listening. I think you're very interesting. But next time I want to bring you on and then delve a little further before your film career.
Sure.
I don't want to rush it, but I'd rather have a nice time. This is a good amount of time, the length. Chet,
Well, and if you could, take a look at both films.
I will. I will. I just was
Okay.
looking up stuff today. Chet Turner, thank you for coming on Conversation. I appreciate you, sir.
Well, thank you very much for your interest.
All right. Take care. Live long and prosper.
Okay.